Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Buddhist Recovery Network Academy. I am Susanna, joining you from Helsinki, Finland, and I will be your host today. I'm a big fan of Buddhism, recovery, and Buddhist recovery. I facilitate both 8-step recovery meetings and mindfulness-based addiction recovery courses here in Finland. And I'm a member of the board of the Buddhist Recovery Network. And today we have a new academy teaching offered by Venerable Pannavati Bhikkhuni. The pronouns are she and her. And the topic of the teaching, I'm going to tell a little bit more about Venerable and the teaching in a moment. But the topic of the teaching is loosening the pain of regret. And thanks everybody for being here and being part of our community today. All of our teachings are given freely, and we are blessed with some amazing teachers who have experience on the cushion, experience working with body, speech, and mind, experience in the ongoing practice of recovery by the way of Dharma. And as we practice the Buddha's teaching of generosity, we invite you to give dana that will be given to support our ongoing Buddhist Recovery Network meetings and to support the teacher. You can give on a one-time or recurring basis using the link that is posted by our tech, Silasiri. Thank you again, Silasiri, for being the tech in the chat field. And please sure to indicate your donation is for the Academy. And we sincerely thank you for your generosity. And if you forget to put there that it's for the Academy, we usually direct all the donations that come just before this event, during the event, and right after to the Academy, and now to the main point of this event. So I would like to introduce our guest teacher. So Venerable Pannavati Mahateri is a former Christian pastor, uniquely ordained in both Theravada and Mahayana traditions. She's also a Vajrayana teacher and particularly inspired by her final lineage master. She offers authorized esoteric lineage teachings, empowerments, and activities using skillful means. She's co-founder of Heartwood Refuge, an intentional monastic and lay residential community, correct cultivation learning from Buddha Academy, and embracing simplicity, Hermitage monastic order. Venerable also serves on Buddhist and interspiritual leadership boards internationally, having retired from decades of active work in humanitarian projects, advocating and serving women's advancement education for Dalits, that means India's untouchables, and full ordination for female monks. And the topic of the teaching is loosening the pain of regret. And the pain of regret can bind us. We will discuss the ways we can unbind through the Dharma. And welcome so much with my full heart, Venerable Pannavati. I got goosebumps when I read your introduction in there. It's very an honor to have you with us. And now the screen is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me today. If it's okay with you, I'd like to give the Dharma talk first, and then we're going to use our meditation as an opportunity to begin to apply that, and then we'll take it out with us in the world. So I have, 20 minutes for the Dharma talk? What's your normal talk? And then
it depends. Yeah, it depends how long meditation you want to have. If you want to have 20 minutes of talk, then you will have 20 minutes of meditation. So we have total about 40 minutes.
Okay, great.
Now to go. Thank you.
You know, one of the most important aspects of recovery is to take responsibility for the harm that we have caused others. And one good sign that one is really entering and moving along the path of recovery is our capacity to do that. But there comes a point when the exercise is lost upon us because we devolve into a state of deep conflict and deep grief over how we have hurt ourselves and how we have hurt others. All of us are addicted to something. I can tell you that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this realm. We're here due to causes, so we have to keep causality in mind. It's one of the foundational principles of the Buddha's teaching, that all conditions are due to causes. So whenever we are seeing a condition manifest in our life, we know that there was some cause, and the uh, ground for this condition to arise co-arose with some action in thoughts, or words, or speech, and it's just flowering right now. So, but it's not just happening right now. It's just simply the fruit, or the seeds have been nurtured and they've been watered in some kind of way through different actions. And so now a fruit is popping up its head through the soil, and that can be a fortunate fruit, or a beneficial fruit, or unfortunate or unbeneficial fruit. But just because it is arising is not to say that this is the beginning of it. It is to recognize that it is the fruit of something that has already occurred. And here I'm speaking specifically around uh, habits and actions that have occurred in the past, that have laid a foundation for our present moment suffering, or for the suffering that we are causing others, or we have caused others. The other part of that is that there's a way to um, mitigate, not for the sake of release, but for the sake of the appearance of goodness having a capacity to manifest even in unfortunate situations. And this is where it takes an a moving onto the path to actually begin to experience, to appreciate, and to bring into manifestation. And that's like actually walking the path, when we get beyond the theories, beyond the concepts, beyond even the acknowledgement, and beyond the accountability. There is still something that comes after that, that brings the glory, the fulfillment, and the benefit that we call path. And so that's what I want to talk about a little bit today. When Bahia heard that the Buddha was passing by, he wanted to go and see him. And he said, "Teach me Dharma, Lord, teach me Dharma, Sugata, so that it will be for my goodness and my happiness for a long time." And the Buddha rebuffed him and said, "This is not the time for a Dharma talk. This is alms round. So this is the time that we collect our meal, and the time that we eat." But he was insistent, "Teach me now, teach me the Dharma now." For the second time, the Buddha said, "This is not the proper time." But his persistence paid off, because he employed him a third time. "Teach me the Dharma now." And and uh, uh, and because of his tenacity, to penetrate, to really understand something that would take him from concepts and theories and words, and actually put him on a path of 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 uh, of great suitability for benefit to come forth. He went on and he gave him a teaching. And so he said, Buddha, it's difficult to know when a person's time is coming up. Um, so you must say something that will be for my good and my happiness for a long time. And he said this to him: "Herein, Bahia, you should train yourself thus. In the seen, there will merely be what is seen. In the heard, merely what is heard. In the sensed, merely what is sensed. In the cognized, merely what is cognized. In this way, you should train yourself, Bahia." When Bahia for you in the seen is merely that, and the heard and the sensed and the cognized is merely the cognized, you will not be with that. You will not be in that. You will neither be here nor beyond, nor in between the two. Just this is the end of suffering. So you see, as long as we are holding and grasping at something, whether it is satisfaction, whether it is happiness, whether it's remorse, we are not free from suffering. There is a place, there is a station that we can enter into life that it is all there without the analysis. And so he said, the mind can only go so far in understanding this path and what it is. And we use language prajna to take us from not understanding to some kind of understanding, but that understanding is going to be partial. It's going to be based on what we see or what we hear or what we taste or what we touch or what we smell or what we think even. And he says that we have not yet approached path in those stages by looking at something and perceiving something, because our perception is faulty and it's partial. So that's what it means by being false. Doesn't mean like I'm not really here and I'm not really talking to you. It means that this is just a snapshot, a moment in time, a partial understanding based on some criteria, that arises from the sense basis. So the sense basis, like the eye sees something, consciousness arises. Three of these make contact, and with contact comes a feeling. And with the feeling, all the other aspects of the 12 links of dependent origination roll out. But you see how it starts. It starts with in a partial space of seeing something, of hearing something, of tasting something, of touching something, of smelling something, of thinking something. And on that basis, we formulate what is happening, good, bad, or ugly, or beautiful. And he says, the Buddha says that we cannot be caught up. Caught up means being obsessed by. It doesn't mean pretend it's not happening. It doesn't mean to allow something that is harmful to sentient beings to continue on. I mean, there have been a couple of times we've had some people come to the Sangha, and although our doors are open to all, I have to say, if they, behave in a certain way, like you see that door right there, there's no lock on it, It said you don't have to leave mad, but you do have to leave. We don't have to have a dog in the fight that engages and wraps us up in all of these sense aggregates. He says that we have to move beyond that. Those are the first things that we recognize. Maybe in the beginning, we don't even recognize how we are evaluating things. But through some learning, we find out that we're making our assumptions based on what we see, hear, taste, touch, smell, and think. He says that there is a deeper way to penetrate this, and that is through contemplative illumination. And that's where reflection comes in. That's where sitting with something and just looking at it, taking it, even your situation, and putting it at arm's length to just look at it. There's some people who are very good at, really very good at giving advice to others, but they can't handle a single thing in their life. When you've been out on the circuit long enough and you're behind the curtain, you get to see a lot of things. And many, many, many teachers cannot handle the vicissitudes that come in their own life, the praise, the blame, the pleasure, the pain, the fame, the shame, the fame and the blame. They can't handle it. but they can teach you how to handle it. They can tell you how to handle it. And so there is part of this that goes beyond the conversation, that goes beyond the dialogues that we have into the action aspect. And we call that simply cultivation. Cultivating. It's like having the seed of perfectly correct progeny, planting it in the soil. And then we have to water it, we have to nurture it, we have to and fertilize it. And when you fertilize it, whatever is in the soil is also fertilized. So you see some weeds start to come up, and you have to pluck those weeds out. You have to make sure that it gets enough sunshine, that it has the right temperature, humidity in the room, and that'll make the difference in what your planting comes to be. And this is a very personal thing. And it's part of just the process that we go through in growing, like moving from being a child to being a teenager or young adult and a seasoned and mature practitioner, not lacking in any good thing. And the only one who can determine what that really is, which state or you are in, is you. And if you pick up and apply the wrong teaching at the wrong time, then you'll misunderstand the progression, and you'll not enter into the freedom that comes with doing your work. And so I run into a lot of people who are in recovery who cannot let go of the harm or the hurt that they've caused. And this is the next step to that progression. When you've done what you could to make amends, and sometimes making amends is not even you have to suffer the pain of living with something that you did, and you can't even tell the person, because for them to know could cause them even more pain, more suffering. And so now you have to hold the whole thing yourself, and you're living in this deep regret, and you're living in this deep sense of shame. But this is how one should think when one comes to that place, is how wonderful that I have seen myself. How wonderful that I have learned and picked up and used tools that have helped me to be different, to overcome, to lay down, to take up something, so that what I was, although I have the memory of it and I carry it around with me, that thing that I did, I am not that anymore. And if we don't make that transition, when we've come to the realization, the acknowledgement, and the accepted the responsibility internally, along with that will co-arise the wisdom of how to move forward. And there is a kind of joy that one can take in the forward movement and the grace of the wisdom that co-arises with your cultivation. And then you can begin to find joy in that. And as you do, you lose the personal sense of grief, and you take up the universal marvelousness of the capacity of the Dharma to transform your life. And I started to say to transform you as an individual. But what happens is, when you do this continually, you stop thinking of yourself so much as an individual and what you have done as an individual. And there comes this place where you're lessening and loosening your grip on yourself as a self. And you start to just see what is fruitful and what is not fruitful, what is beneficial and what is not beneficial. And not a matter of me and you, but just simply seeing what benefits sentient beings. And you start to offer to yourself the same thing that you want to offer to others as you move along this path. And that's the place that a lot of us have difficulty with. A lot of us are stuck. And methods are methods. Methods, though, lead to something. The method is not the thing, it is the destination of the method, the transformation of the method that is important. So our purpose of using methods or applying methods to our ignorance is for the sake of the change. It's not for the sake of the method. But sometimes we can get so locked into the method that we can't actually bring freedom to ourselves as a sentient being, and we get stuck in false appearances, stuck in the I was. You know, there's a place I have to acknowledge I'm helpless. You know, I'm helpless. I need the help and the support of another. But then there's a place that we get to where I am not helpless. I can move forward in this. And so at first we have reliance on others. But as we take up skillful means and useful methods, as we take into our mind stream, you know, because mind is chief, whatever we think and ponder on, that becomes the inclination of our mind. He says, he abused me, he beat me, he robbed me. Those who harbor such thoughts in them, anger will never be appeased. He abused me, he beat me, he robbed me. Those who do not harbor such thoughts, didn't say it didn't happen, but he said, for those who don't harbor such thoughts, then anger will be appeased. So it's important how the trajectory of our thoughts and how those thoughts have to be aligned with the method of cultivation, you know, that I once was that, but I'm not that anymore. It's the first leap. The second leap is this one that he explained to Bahia, that when you see in the scene merely what is seen, in the heard merely what is heard, in the taste, the touch, the smelt, and the thoughts merely what was thought. He said, when you are like this, like that's a thought. He said, you will not be with that, then you will not be in that. And when you are not in that, you will be neither here nor beyond, nor in between the two. And just this is the end of suffering. And so I want to take us into a meditation right now of how we can begin to use this placement. And when you use this whole story of the Buddha and Bahia, you could say that this is the Buddha and you, not Bahia. And you're at the place that you know that life needed to change. Or you may still be in some processes at the beginning stages of making some change. You may be at the intermediate stage, and you may be at the seasoned stage. And it's not like the further we go, the less we see. The further we go, the more we see. And as we feel the lifting of the weight that change brings about, when one is not relying so much on the rule, but on the state of their own heart and mind. Now they have to make decisions on their own. We have the rules as a guardrail to keep us confined within a certain area, but in that space, there's a lot can happen, a lot can take place. One's not sure whether they have the capacity, the ability, the full knowledge, even the willingness to create what in their mind is a perfection at this time. And so there's some instability. There's some fear of making a mistake. There's some deep regret over loss. There can even be deep regret over gain, gain that has been required in an illegal manner or acquired through the taking of something that belonged to someone else. Ill-gotten, in other words. And sometimes these things nag at us and they hinder us. And this is the time that when we have fully taken inner responsibility, we can find solace and comfort in the Dharma. So we know that our badness has a certain kind of charge and a certain kind of power to it, but we're not so sure whether our goodness has the same kind of charge and same kind of power. We believed more in our badness than we do in our goodness. In our goodness, having the capacity to comfort, to release, to relieve, to overcome, to bring joy. And even to foster or plant seeds of its own that will also ripen and mature in days to come. And this is a time that we can shift the mind towards the great reckoning that comes with the small transformations we're making step by step. And we can shift the direction of our mind, what we lean into. And that when I'm thinking, I am weak, let the weak say, I am strong. And when we've discovered that some way we are walking or thinking is not useful, it's not kind, it's not beneficial, we can take up the action aggregate and do something that is contrary, that is useful, that is beneficial. And as we get in the habit of substitution, it's no longer a substitution. It becomes our natural way of being. In the very same way, the unwholesome things we thought and said and did was our natural way of being. So we find a new way of being in this time of shifting. That is the next stage or the next step of our recovery. And right now, because in reflecting over my life, I also took action. I changed, or am changing, or am recognizing the need to shift the way I think, to shift the way I speak, to shift what I do, lay down something, take up something useful. I'm committed to that. And that's what gives me the strength and the courage to go through this transitory stage, sure to emerge on the other shore. And I've taken up the exercises, the training, the doctrines, and the disciplines that will assist me in this. And that produces its own type of fruit after its own kind. And even though things may be rough, or you can forgive, but you can't forget, you can use this object of substitution to further sweeten and train the mind until there is nothing left there but harmlessness and peace. And knowing that I am endeavoring in this way, regardless of the person who looks at me through the eyes of a child and just sees whatever their eyes show them, not knowing the value and the intensity and the dedication of my efforts. They're just seeing. There's a story in the Visuddhimagga that speaks of perception as being like a child, because it sees things and it makes a judgment about it without really understanding the characteristics of usage, like what they see is good for, how it can be used in the world. And then they describe consciousness like a villager. And so let's say the child sees coins, and one is blue and one is red and one is yellow. They can perceive the blue, the red, the yellow. And they only have the value of their beauty to the child. But the villager knows that they have a usage. They represent money and can be used for commerce. And the blue can buy a particular thing, the gold can buy something else, and the silver can buy something else. So it's more than just what is seen, that there are characteristics that give it value. Said, but the progeny that we get from studying the experiences of the great wisdom masters and then contemplating them until there is an inner light or inner brilliance shown on us that teaches us how to actually walk the path. How to evaluate things from this perspective of the inner light. So that's like the one that you exchange coins with. He knows all about coins, what their value is, where they were minted, how pure they are. You see, this notion can only come from the transmission of the inner light. One goes into the depths of one's own heart one's own mind. Not what the book said, not what the teacher said. But you know the scope of your intention. You know the depth of your own commitment. Regardless of how someone else judges you, you have to know these things for yourself. As I'm looking now and searching my own heart and mind, going into the inner places, the places that are real within me, and seeing, oh, have more work to do right there. And rejoicing in the fact that you could see that more work, more integrity of intention is needed. And making a firm vow to oneself. When you take a vow, you don't take it to other people. You're making a vow to yourself. Respecting yourself. Seeing yourself. And when you step out to do something in the world after making that vow, it'll come up, it'll rise up within your own consciousness. I said I wouldn't do that. Oh, yeah, that's right. And that's when you're doing your work. Once you've dealt with that regret, you don't keep revisiting it. That takes up space. One can be looking for one's intrinsic goodness. Set your heart upon that, and it will strengthen your capacity. It will deepen your commitment. It will set you on a course that every day becomes a new day, an exploration to learn more about yourself. So it's one freeing oneself, one taking refuge in oneself. The Buddha said, dwell, you are the light itself. Rely upon yourself. Do not rely on others. But there was a requirement to being able to rely upon yourself. He said, dwell, the Dharma is the light. Rely on the Dharma. Do not rely on anything other than Dharma. So this implies that the Dharma that's in you, the Dharma that's in me, is what will sustain and carry me across my times of regret until my mourning is changed into joy. And let this peace be in you and all around you. And if you do, that's what you will offer to others. This is the way that we train our mind. Now, sitting, standing, lying down, walking, I can be abiding in a meditative state at all times. the mind set free like a bird, not being caught up with things, not being in them, neither here nor beyond, nor in between the two. Just this is the end of suffering. And so our very objective is to arrive at this state of mind called beautiful. I mean, all worldly Dharma is Buddha Dharma. This is where we need it, right here in this world as we overcome the vicissitudes of life. And that mind that's in that space of unimpeded ease is where our freedom lies. Because we're only offering people what's in our mind. So when we have these little spurts, these little moments of taking the mind to that place where it's not in that, not all caught up in that. And we're cultivating and have done our best to make amends, then we can rest in that. That sweet mind, the state of mind called beautiful. I mean, don't you feel beautiful right about now? Yeah. Oh, love that. Yeah. Don't you feel in a state of non-judgment? I know, because even recognizing, we can rejoice when we recognize that we need to make a change, or we recognize it's a great awakening to recognize that we have to do something different. It might not be comfortable to do that thing, but the recognition of it gives us the strength and the courage to follow through. And even when we're following through and it feels uncomfortable to do, we just finish it, handle our business. And at the end of that, there is such a peace and such an ease. I'm always talking about it in my Sangha, Don't treat me like I'm a child. I'm not a child. I'm a grown-up. And to be able to handle matters, comfortable or uncomfortable. I appreciate just knowing the truth. Plain, unadulterated truth. Just tell me the truth about it, and I'll work the rest out. But don't give me pablum, because I won't grow strong and healthy. but I'll be impotent and deficient. So I think the time has come now when we're in a space that we're ready for the unadulterated truth. Yeah. Thank you, Susanna.
Sadhu, Venerable Pannavati, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for your wise words, your wisdom that you're sharing with us. Wow. So now it's time for the Q&A. So a few words about Dana. Your generosity can help to strengthen the recovery community and to grow the academy, and can be a practical expression of gratitude and metta. So we invite you to practice generosity and to give Dana in support of these teachings, to be shared with our teacher and with the Buddhist Recovery Network. And there will be a link in the chat that will take you to the BRN website, and please indicate that your gift is for the academy. And then there's going to be some other links as well, including the Facebook group that we have. And please answer the questions to join. Our next teaching will be in Sunday, June 2nd, with Walt Opie. And there will also be a link to a music event. Silasiri is going to put music event that has to do with Venerable's community. Did I get it correct? Is that correct wording? Yes, good. Okay, and we will end with the transference of merits, the Academy style. So thank you for joining us today. May the merit we have gained go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. May we all be happy. May we all be peaceful. May we all be safe. And the room will be open for a few moments. And again, I want to thank you, Venerable Pannavati, for coming to teach for us. It has been very precious. Thank you very much, and hopefully you have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you, Susanna.
Bye-bye, everybody.